how do you see any two-state solution actually worth Israelis taking the risk?
Thank you for your question. Mr. Mencer.
Well, firstly, good to be with you, and
you.
Thank you, Peter, for your question. Yes, it's true. We live in a very dangerous neighborhood. When Israelis ministers visit the international community, that's the first thing that they say. And you know what, Peter? It's absolutely true. And with your question, you've highlighted that fact. The idea about a Palestinian state right now, it would be a reward for terrorism. And that is why, for the overwhelming majority of Israelis, whereas in previous times, in previous years, there has been more of a willingness to entertain that idea, the two-state solution, right now it seems a very unrealistic proposition, mainly because for the Palestinians, their state, the purpose of their state is not to build their own state for a better future for themselves, but simply a reason to destroy the Israeli state.
All Palestinians? You think that of all Palestinians?
I think that the majority, unfortunately, now have shown their support for Hamas. The latest opinion polls which have taken place in Judea and Samaria and in Gaza, although certainly Hamas's support in Gaza has fallen greatly because of the misery they've put them through. But for many, many years now, Israelis have understood that if the willingness to create a Palestinian state is simply another step to destroy Israel, then no Israeli in their right mind would go for that idea.
So
if there was an alternative, let me put it this way, if there was a realistic proposition that there was a genuine willingness to live side by side with us in peace without it being just another stopgap to destroy this country, then I can tell you, Tom and Peter, Israelis would jump at the idea. But that is not the case, unfortunately. And we wait for the moment when that is the case.
So the two-state solution that has been talked about for decades and decades is off the table now?
Right now, it's certainly off the table and looks like being off the table until the Palestinians themselves make that brave decision that the creation of their state is not just another step to the destruction of the state of Israel.
So question one, why has Israel decided to block the supply of all goods, medical supplies and food to Gaza for the last 2 weeks?
Thank you for your question, Khalid. I appreciate you asking it. Look, these are the facts, Khalid. 1,800,000 tons of aid have gone into Gaza since the start of this war. Now, let me put that in terms that make a little bit more sense. That is enough aid to fill Wembley Stadium full to the brim 80 times. Full to the brim. Now that means practically there is more than enough food for everyone in Gaza. But Hamas steal the aid, they resell it to Gazans for vastly increased prices. They use the money which they get to rearm, and then they plan to attack us again. Why do I say that, Khalid? Because Hamas themselves say it. Now, during this 42-day phase one period, when we did have this ceasefire, 25,000 aid trucks have entered into Gaza.
But aid is not just food, Mr. Mencer. Aid is not just food.
That's correct.
Aid is also medical supplies. So you say that Gazans have got enough medical supplies?
There is no shortage of food and medical supplies in the Strip whatsoever. In fact, the only humanitarian suffering in Gaza, I'll be straight with you, is that of Israeli hostages who are being chained, who are being starved, and who are being held in Hamas tunnels.
Well, the suggestion earlier, there's no doubt that people, of course, Israeli hostages are suffering. Your suggestion earlier was that there are people in Gaza who say that they are suffering at the hands of Hamas. So it can't just only be the Israeli hostages that are suffering under Hamas, as you suggested earlier. So if they've got enough food, as you say, there's enough medical supplies there, why cut electricity?
So Hamas takes the aid that enters Gaza and exploits it in order to rebuild its war machine. Now, you ask about electricity. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you, when it comes to electricity, it is now extremely clear that having ceased supplying to electricity to Gaza, which is a lawful measure to put pressure on Hamas into releasing our hostages.
It's the definition of collective punishment, is it not?
It is a lawful measure to prevent the terror organization from using Israeli-provided resources to rebuild its military operation.
Even if it affects for example, the water treatment plants in Gaza, stopping people there from being able to get clean water, which is also one of the effects of it. As your energy minister says, Eli Cohen, we will use all the tools at our disposal to bring back the hostages and ensure that Hamas is no longer in Gaza the day after the war. This is a tactic to pressure Hamas, possibly at the fate of innocent people in Gaza.
Those water treatment plants are being fueled by generators, and there is enough fuel for those generators to last into the future. Hamas will not build rockets.
How long is the future? How long how long before the electricity can be turned back on?
Hamas will not build rockets to fire at Israel with Israel's electricity. Before the war, there were 10 power lines to Gaza that provided half of their electricity consumption. The rest was from generators, a power plant, and also a solar plant, which provided more electricity. On October the 7th, it was Hamas themselves that destroyed 9 of these 10 power lines. And today, that desalination plant still operates on the basis of all the fuel that has come in during the period of the agreement.
You have to accept, because it is part of the bargaining tool that you are using here in order to get the hostages back, is that you accept that there will be people in Gaza who are not involved with Hamas will suffer more because of a lack of electricity coming from Israel than with electricity coming from Israel. You accept that?
Our decision to halt aid and electricity into Gaza is absolutely consistent with international law, specifically Article 23 of the 4th Geneva Convention, which states that a country is not required to allow aid if it will be diverted to enemy combatants. Now, we have sent in large amounts of aid, a lot of aid in the last 42 days, 25,000 truckloads. So that means that Israel and international bodies, including the UN, which have documented Hamas's systematic theft and weaponization of these humanitarian supplies. Now, given that aid has been used to sustain Hamas's military operation, including the October 7th massacre and the ongoing hostilities, Israel is under no legal obligation to continue these transfers. It is up to Hamas to use the existing aid and fuel to feed and provide power for their own people, not to use their own people as a weapon with which to hit Israel.
There are so many things which negative portrayal come out of Israel. I don't understand. I have cousins in Abu Tor in Jerusalem. You know Abu Tor?
They do indeed.
They live, they're safe, they're happy, they go shopping, they're citizens, they get treated nicely, they love being in Israel. I don't understand why everyone has such negative portrayal of this country. Do you understand why this is such a problem? Why they give them everyone says they are so badly oppressed. My cousin's not oppressed.
And your cousin is, Ibrahim, your cousin is Jewish?
No, he is Arab.
Right. So your question is, why does Israel have... I mean, people talk about Israel as an apartheid state, Mr. Mencer.
So anyone that has spent more than 25 seconds in this country will tell you what a nonsense that is. As Ibrahim says, 2 million of our 10 million population are Israeli Arabs. By no means perfect is their life, but they are the freest Arabs in hundreds of miles in any direction. They are free to vote. They are free to work. They are free to enter Israel's university system. They are free. They have the same freedoms as every single other person, whatever their religion in this country. And it is a source of pride for our people that is the case. Now, you're right. This country has been maligned for really since the day it was created, although we've got a 3,500-year history in this land. We've only had a state for the last 76 years. This country is constantly maligned in the international media. It is undeserved. We believe here in Israel that there is more than a touch of Jew hatred in that maligning.
You don't think there's a difference, though? Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Mencer. You see that there's a difference between people who would malign the existence of a Jewish state and people who would malign and be heartbroken by the actions of the elected Israeli government. And those two things are very different.
Yes, of course they're different. But this is a country that respects the rule of law, that has the same qualities and the same aspirations as the UK, a free press, a democratic country, freedom of speech. Those are very, very important aspects of this country and things we're extremely proud of. And we know that this country is unfairly maligned in so much of the media, including, unfortunately, on LBC. Hence, my decision to accept your invitation to come on and, in a certain sense, tell Israel what Israel is about rather than the lies, unfortunately.
I think it's reasonable for LBC listeners in particular to ask questions of the Israeli government about some of the decisions they have taken in all of this. And we're grateful that you're here to answer those questions. Ibrahim, thank you.
Why is it that Gazans are the only people that are not allowed to escape this war
because you didn't let
for
them.
A better lives? That's precisely the point. It is Egypt, which lives on the southern border of Gaza, which not only closed their border, but build a huge concrete fence.
But Israel has that border too. If these Gazans were saying during the fighting that was going on, we would like to leave, and you're saying they should be given the right to leave, why didn't Israel let them?
Because that doesn't make sense. It would make sense for them to leave through Egypt to go wherever they wanted to go. Let's not forget.
So they can only leave if Egypt says they can leave, but they should leave, but Israel says no.
Let's not forget that Gazans, many of them have an Egyptian heritage. That is their heritage. Gazans are Arabs, proud Arabs. So are Egyptians. Many of them are called Al-Mazri, which means Egyptian. Their heritage is Egyptian. There is no reason to keep them from escaping this war. The only reason is for these people living in Gaza to remain an open sore on Israel, whereas we don't allow them, and Egypt in particular has not been allowing them to leave Gaza. Now, I don't understand, perhaps you can tell me how it is that countries like Syrians were able to leave, Ukrainians were able to leave, they were absorbed, including in the UK, including in generous British homes. Why is it that Gazans were not allowed to leave?
Would they be allowed to return? Ukrainians are, Syrians are. Would they be allowed to go back to their homes?
Why would they want to return?
Because it's their home.
Have a chance. Yep, well, there will be an opportunity for them to return if they wanted to.
Right.
But
so that's the policy. There will be an opportunity for Gazans who leave to return back to Gaza once it is once they decide that they want to go back?
President Trump has made a suggestion. It's worthy of consideration. The thing with President Trump, as our Prime Minister has said, that very often he makes suggestions. They leave people rubbing their heads slightly, being slightly confused by the slightly outlandish way in which he makes suggestions. But then the penny drops, and then people start to see the wisdom in this idea. There is no reason whatsoever that Gazans who want to leave, again, who voluntarily want to leave, should not be allowed to leave Gaza.
And it is not Israel.
Right, but it is not right that Egyptians, their Arab brothers, have closed that border. Why have they closed that border? It should have been opened. We've asked them many, many times, Egypt, to open their border, to allow them to flee, to escape from this war, to leave voluntarily. Our Prime Minister has said that, and so has President Trump. We think, for the first time, it's an idea worthy of consideration. The British military experts have said that around 5,000 to 10,000 Gazan civilians have been killed. Now, that is far lower than the overinflated figure of Gazans, which the Hamas-run Ministry of Health in Gaza.
And that's okay. That's an okay number.
Of course it's not okay, but my point is that the military experts, not the people that look at the internet and proclaim all sorts of wisdom on Twitter, but the military experts themselves. I'm talking about John Spencer, who is the world-leading expert when it comes to urban warfare. He has said that the way that Israel has conducted this war, can I just say on the overarching thing, every single civilian killed, caught in the crossfire, is a catastrophe. Of course it is. But our objective is always to move people out of harm's way. We've done more than any other military in the history of urban warfare to get that done, to move people out of harm's way and to go directly.
You've sent them to areas, Mr. Mencer, where they were told that they were safe, only for it to be bombed.
So the reason that has happened is because Hamas cynically, when people moved there for safety, where they were given shelter and food and water and medical care and everything they needed, Hamas would use those areas to attack us from, launch rockets from those places. Why would they do that? Precisely because they wish to kill their own people. Why would they want to do that? Because they know that they feel that they can't beat us militarily, but they can beat us when it comes to the PR campaign.
I need to get to more questions from my listeners. Rana's in Barking. Hi, Rana.
Hi, Mr. Mencer. You have been lying on this platform about Gaza. Let Gazans decide where they want to live and how they want to live. Netanyahu has killed over 40,000 Gazans.
Your question, Rana. Sorry, yes, your question, though, sir. You've made your point. I think we've gone on the figures. Your question to Mr. Mencer about Gazans deciding.
Yes, my question is very simple. Let UN to come into Gaza, and Gazans should decide how they want to live and where they want to go.
All right, Rana, thank you. Mr. Mencer, why can't Gazans decide who they are run by and where they live?
Well, Rana, I agree with you. Let Gazans decide where they want to live. Absolutely correct. If Gazans wish to leave, then they should be allowed to leave. President Trump, in an unprecedented
to Israel.
move.
Why wouldn't Israel accept Gazans if they want to leave?
So this is a bizarre question, because just put yourself in British Armed Forces in 1945, and if Germans said, okay, we've been defeated by Britain, we'll go and live in the UK now. I mean, that is a ridiculous, it's just ridiculously far-fetched. We know that Gaza, unfortunately, still remains under Hamas control. So what we are doing now is freeing, what we will ultimately do is freeing Gaza from Hamas.
Just not those people who want to leave.
The only way to give Gazans a better future is to remove Hamas, the jihadist terrorist organization, and allow Gazans themselves. Right now, we're all being told that Gazans don't want to leave. I simply don't believe that. No one here in Israel believes that. They should be given the freedom, not compulsory, Tom and Rana. They should be given the freedom to decide precisely what their future is.